What's up, everybody? John Charmijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new album from the band Mystifier, entitled Protogoni Mavri Magiki Dynesteia. This is released on Season of Mist. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very traditional, occult, blasphemous hybrid of both black metal and death metal. Mystifier are an incredibly synonymous band when it comes to South American extreme metal, black metal, death metal, and whatever sort of forms of extreme metal you want to talk about. This is a band with a very distinctive look, sound, image, and delivery. And for the better part of the last 3+ decades, this band has just been a very, very important and legendary part of what extreme metal is all about. Going back to this band's early 80s material, to their output in the 90s with albums such as Wicca and Goetia. Of course, Goetia being my personal favorite out of the two of the early Mystifier material. I mean, listen to the song Beelzebub with the keyboards and the vocals and just how everything sounds. It's just a very, very awesome record, and that's something that makes Mystifier stand out a lot amongst other luminaries in extreme metal, is their usage of keyboards. I believe the keyboard usage adds to their overall sound and depth, in addition to the raspy vocals, the drum work, the memorable riffs and leads. It's just a really complex package. And then, of course, following that, we had albums like 1998's The World Is So Good That Who Made It Doesn't Live Here. That was a long album name, but that was a pretty solid album in its own right. But the last time we had heard of an album from Mystifier was back in 2001 with Profanus. That was some solid stuff, but I don't think it compared to anything this band had done in the previous years. But ever since then, Mystifier has still been very much an active band, playing internationally, playing across the world, working on music, and out of the blue and out of nowhere, we got a brand new look at what was going to be coming from Mystifier in the form of a song called Weighing Heart Ceremony. Just the way that song built up and led up to what it eventually would become was really, really promising in showing you how long away Mystifier has been from making music, but I was very curious to see how things were going to go now. And now here we are with the fourth Mystifier full-length entitled Protogoni Mavri Magiki Dynesteia. It's 10 tracks and it clocks in at around 50 minutes in length, and pretty much, if you know what Mystifier sounds like, and if you're familiar with how they get the job done, you're going to feel right at home listening to this album, because this one album feels extremely ritualistic. From the minute this album starts off with the title track and the ambience and the sound, and then soon after that, you'll be set in for one interesting sort of thrill ride. I definitely think this is a very welcome return to form for Mystifier in terms of vocals, in terms of musicianship, and just overall entertainment. This is some seriously fun stuff to listen to here. It seems as if the musicianship this band has carried with them for a long time has never slowed down or waned in any sort of way. I really do appreciate the musicianship and efforts that are being done here with this album. Very audible guitar riffs and bass sound being done and used throughout the majority of this record. Very riff heavy throughout this album, with songs like Witching Lycanthropic Moon, Demoler las Torres del Lipio en Nombre del Diablo, Al Nakba. Just some seriously entrancing guitar playing going on here. If I'm not mistaken, the guy playing the guitars is pretty much the heart and soul of this band. He is the true original member of this band right now, because of course Mystifier has had lineup changes in the past, but this guy has been with the band since the very beginning, and he shows you why he's so good at what he does and why he plays the guitar as well as he does. And there is just a lot of crazy, melodious, entrancing sort of riffs being played here throughout this album. The solo work sounds awesome. It doesn't feel too distracting. I definitely think they serve their place throughout this album. And of course, this is a very awesome guitar performance being done here. Like I mentioned earlier, very audible bass being heard throughout this record. I think it sounds awesome. I definitely think it suits and fits the themes of this album, and having a very respectable bass sound and bottom end works out very well. Drum work, I think the drum work is very awesome. I love the way this drum sound is. It sounds very natural. It definitely feels in tow with how ritualistic and dark this album is. The snare sound, the fills, just the whole dynamisty of this drum performance just sounds really awesome, especially for some of the lengthier tracks that are on this record. Going back to songs like Witching Lycanthropic Moon and Soul Trap Sorcery of Vengeance, even the track Thanatopraxy, that's the longest track on here, and I think there's some really good stamina going on here with this drum performance. And you can't have a Mystifier release unless you have some ambience and keyboard sounds, and these keyboard sounds are phenomenal. I love the keyboard usage throughout this album. It's used very sparingly, but once it's incorporated into a song, I definitely feel it works out better for this band's advantage, and it definitely encompasses what the Mystifier sound is all about, and I think it's really fun to listen to. And when it comes to the vocals, I really enjoy this vocal performance here a lot, because you get a lot of diversity being spread throughout these vocals. You have these really nasty, raspy sorts of vocals being done here, but then you also have these spoken word sort of passages being done here. It brings forth that ritualistic element of what Mystifier is all about, and I think the diversity of having those types of vocals in addition to the more raspy sort of roars works out very well here. And if I'm not mistaken, on the track Witching Lycanthropic Moon, you hear Prescriptor McGovern from Absu on that track, which I think is a really, really killer inclusion, and definitely a very influential inclusion to this album. And I think his guest spot on this album is really awesome. But as far as Mystifier's main vocalist is concerned, really good stuff. Love the diversity, love the spoken passages and the raspy vocals. I think they work out very well. So overall, very awesome return to form here for Mystifier. Do I think this is their best album? I wouldn't quite say so, because I still love Wicca and Goetia a great deal, but I definitely think this blows the previous two records out of the water, and hopefully we won't have to wait another 17 or 18 years for more Mystifier music to come. So if you are a Mystifier fan, I think you'll find something to dig here with this new full-length album. So if I had to think of any personal favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say the title track, Witching Lycanthropic Moon. The song Weighing Heart Ceremony is pretty good too. Demoler las Tortes de Cielo. Al Nakba is a really great track, and the closing track, Chiesa de Bambini Molestati, great stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'll leave you a link in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will leave you a link to the Mystifier Bandcamp page where you can listen to this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can stream it by digitally, and it is available physically as a CD and 12-inch vinyl. Many ways to get a hold of this album. So again, the album is Protogoni Mavri Magiki Dynesteia by Mystifier. This is released on Season of Mist. Go check this one out. And for a score, I'm feeling a very strong 8.5 out of 10 for this one. Very entertaining return to form for Mystifier. So if you guys happen to have heard this album, definitely let me know what you think about it, how you feel about it, and how you think it compares to previous Mystifier full lengths. Or any of you guys into Mystifier, definitely let me know. I'm going to do this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. Until next time, Army out.